In West Virginia tonight that has again brought attention to a dangerous way of life in this country. And tonight our coverage of this story begins on the ground in Buckhannon, West Virginia with NBC's Tom Costello. Tom, good evening.
Brian, good evening to you. This town that is home to generations of mining families is tonight seething with anger and demanding answers after 24 hours of a brutal emotional pendulum swing. Tonight they're mourning 12 of their own. The bodies of the 12 miners rest here tonight at this makeshift morgue, a blow to the families who just 18 hours ago thought they would be celebrating a murder. It is the body of Terry Helms. He's alone near the coal belt, and that gives rescuers hope that the others got away. Then, before midnight, the rescue team reaches the bodies through head with the report.
And we're just told in the last few moments that 12 are alive.
And that thrill passed through this crowd here at the Sago Baptist Church, that these men were alive.
And it is truly a remarkable moment.
Newspapers rush to press with the incredible development. A story that has captivated the nation looks almost certain to have a storybook ending. But then, 45 minutes later at 12 Today Show, a family member took on the governor over the mine's safety record.
This has went on for months.
And I'm understanding that
And they still send men in there?
Late this afternoon, the miners that were found apparently constructed a makeshift barricade using plastic sheeting to keep the bad air out. But Brian, they may have realized their situation was dire, because tonight the company is strongly hinting that those miners may have left messages for their families. Brian.
Thanks, Tom. Tom Costello near the mine entrance tonight. And tonight, this small town in West Virginia, as we said, is aching over the loss of these 12 good men. So many of them came from a long line of miners going back generations. Several were months away from retirement. A few of them were 30-year veterans. One of them, a coal miner for just 6 years, always predicted he would die in the mine. The coal mining business is a tough and tight community, but that doesn't make this loss any less for the families that have suffered so much. NBC's Ron Allen is at the church that has become the center of this town. Ron, good evening.
Good evening, Brian. Several hundred people have already arrived here tonight at the church, which continues to be such a vital sanctuary in this community. There's a memorial service going on, the first of what will probably be many such services. Here, after an unbelievable night of emotion, from such jubilation to such utter pain. When you live in a hardscrabble place that yields little in the way of comfort, moments of their neighbors and friends certainly do care about them, and throughout the day there have been volunteers delivering food and other comforts to the families. And here tonight, many of the people arriving are from mining families from nearby towns. Ryan?
Ron, thanks for that report. Ron Allen outside the church tonight. Also in West Virginia and joining us again tonight for more on this story, NBC's Robert Hager, who as a 36-year veteran correspondent for us at NBC News, covered the mining industry here for many years. And Bob, where does the investigation go now?
Well, the federal government's just put out a statement that it's formally underway now. It'll be a long investigation, a joint federal-state operation, maybe take up to 2 years. I would think first they'd want to know the cause of the explosion. Yes, methane gas, but what ignited it? Something had to set it off. Is there something there that could be learned for general mine safety? Second, they'd be looking very closely at the breathing apparatus. As Tom Costello said, most of these miners survived the initial explosion. We know that because they made their way to this little nook and tried to barricade themselves there. So presumably when their oxygen ran out, that's when all but one of them succumbed. So is there some way that they could get an oxygen canister that would last a longer time?
And Bob, what about this one miner, the youngest in the crew? How is it he was able to survive?
Yeah, that's very curious, and because he survived, they'll be able to ask him about it. But he was the youngest. Maybe he was in better physical condition. There are techniques they say you can use where if you lay very prone and measure your breathing and so forth, you can draw out the time that you can get off that oxygen canister, and that may have been what did it. But they will be able to ask him.
Bob, thanks again tonight. Robert Hager on the scene for us this evening in West Virginia. And while investigators try to determine what caused this explosion that started it all, the accident is already putting a harsh spotlight on mine safety in this country. Here is NBC's Martin Savage.
Despite what happened, NBC News, Atlanta.
At the very top of the broadcast, we mentioned this other major story we're following this Wednesday evening. It's news out of Israel, where for the second time in less than 3 weeks, Prime Minister Ariel Sharon has been rushed to the hospital. He suffered a stroke. This time, his doctors say it is so serious that, in their words, he may not make it through the night. For more, we go now to NBC News correspondent Martin Fletcher in Tel Aviv. Martin, good evening.
Brian, that's right. A hospital source tells NBC News Sharon is beginning to undergo massive organ failure. And now aides to the Prime Minister say they're hoping for a miracle. Tonight, a desperate dash from Ariel Sharon's farm in the Negev desert to Hadassah Hospital. If he does die or cannot continue as Prime Minister, nobody knows what will happen to Israel's government or to the encouraging moves Sharon was making towards peace. Brian?
Martin, thanks. We'll be keeping a close eye on this tonight. Martin Fletcher in Tel Aviv. And when NBC Nightly News continues this Wednesday night, the man at the center of a growing corruption investigation, former lobbyist Jack Abramoff, pleads guilty to more charges. And later, some thoughts from a miner's son who became a celebrated author, writing about life in a town called Colwood. Tonight, we're back with NBC News In Depth tonight. The latest on this growing scandal involving former Washington so-called super lobbyist Jack Abramoff, as he was pleading guilty to more charges today. A lot of Washington was trying to figure out how far this corruption case will go. In Depth tonight, here is NBC's Chip Reed.
In Miami today,
News, Washington.
And we're back in just a moment with a health news item of interest to a lot of American women. This has officially been the most deadly day in Iraq in weeks. Insurgents killed more than 50 people with car bombs, suicide attacks, including one at a funeral packed with Shiite mourners. That specific attack killed at least 30 people and wounded 36 more. Back to Washington, Supreme Court nominee Samuel Alito received the highest possible rating today from the American Bar Association. They called him well qualified. Senate hearings begin on Monday. There is, as we mentioned, some good news for once about one of the most difficult cancers to treat. Experts are calling it the biggest breakthrough in years in fighting ovarian cancer. New research shows that heavy doses of chemotherapy pumped directly into the abdomen can extend survival for women with advanced stage cancer by a term of about 16 months. The downside here, though, is that the treatment was too difficult and debilitating for more than half the women in this new study to tolerate. But it may lead to better systems of treatment and delivery. On Wall Street today, stocks were up again on the second day of the trading year. The Dow was up almost 33 points. NASDAQ gained just under 20 points on the day. We'll be right back with some thoughts tonight from a son of America's coal country. Last night was not a good night for the news media in this country. While those first joyous but erroneous reports that the miners were alive were the result of bad information from inside the coal company, the media then heard it from the families, heard the church bells ringing, and then ran with the good news and without hard confirmation. It was all over cable news all night long and all over the front pages this morning. It only made it worse on the families when we learned the truth. Only one man had in fact lived. The coal mining business, as we said here last night, is largely conducted out of sight and out of mind. It is not for the faint of heart, the claustrophobic, the weak, or the meek. It is a fraternity, a hugely valuable component of the U.S. economy, and a way of life in America that many only think about when something like this goes wrong. Tonight, we asked Homer Hickam to talk about coal mining culture. He was born, after all, in Colwood, West Virginia. He's the author of several books, including the book that was the basis for the movie October Sky. Here now is Homer Hickam, a son of a coal miner, in his own words tonight.
The people who live in the
Celebrated American author Homer Hickam, the son of a coal miner, in his own words tonight. That is Nightly News for this Wednesday. Thank you for being with us. I'm Brian Williams. We'll look for you right back here tomorrow evening. Good night.
The NBC Nightly News Netcast.
John Cameron Swayze.
Brett Huntley, David Braden, John Chen.